A processor can leave a factory in Taiwan, cross into a Chinese data center, and never break a single law the United States wrote to stop exactly that crossing. The document responsible is the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security Order on Advanced Computing Items, first issued in October 2022 and revised in October 2023. The rule Washington built specifically to keep its most capable chips out of Chinese hands. We're going to read that rule twice. The first pass takes it at its word. The second pass asks what its own words leave standing, and a chip now shipping into China sits in exactly that space. The rule does not fail because it is vague. It fails, if it fails at all, because it is precise about one quantity and silent about its neighbor. It draws a hard line around how fast a chip can compute and almost nothing around how much data that chip can move. A processor can be engineered to stop just short of the number the rule names while keeping the bandwidth the rule never measures. And that gap is not a flaw hidden in the text. It is the shape the text itself describes once you read past what it forbids to what it simply never mentions. Taken at face value, the rule does what an export control is supposed to do. It names the controlled hardware as integrated circuits for artificial intelligence and high-performance computing, and it names the inputs that produce them, the electronic design automation tools and the manufacturing equipment behind the chips themselves. It names destinations, restricting shipment to China and to other countries under arms embargo. It names end uses tied to military and intelligence applications. The record shows the rule choosing not to build its ceiling out of a brand or a model number, but out of two measurable properties of a chip. The first is total processing performance, a formula that multiplies a processor's bit length by its raw operations count. The second is performance density, that same throughput figure divided by the physical area of the die. A chip whose total processing performance crosses the published threshold needs a license before it can ship to China. The rule states this with formulas, not adjectives. On its own terms, this is a document about arithmetic, and the arithmetic is the whole argument. Reading the formula instead of the headline number changes what the rule looks like it is trying to do. It was never built to ban a company. It was built to ban a shape of silicon, and a shape is a narrower target than a name, and a narrower target is easier to step around. The October 2023 revision closed one part of that target by removing an earlier carve-out, the one that had let a chip qualify on performance density alone if its total processing performance stayed under a separate ceiling. Closing that door reads, on its face, as regulators tightening the rule. Read against what stayed open, it shows something narrower. Regulators corrected one specific escape route while leaving the formula's other blind spot completely untouched. That blind spot is memory bandwidth, the rate at which a chip moves data in and out of itself, and the interconnect bandwidth that lets many chips act as one machine. Neither property appears in the total processing performance formula. Neither appears in the performance density formula. The rule sets a limit on how fast a processor can compute. It sets no limit on how much information that processor, or a room full of them wired together, can feed itself while computing more slowly. Reading the two formulas side by side, the rule is silent on bandwidth not by accident of phrasing, but by the structure of what it chose to count. A chip can therefore be designed to sit below the named compute threshold while keeping most or all of its memory bandwidth. And the rule, read on its own terms, has nothing to say about that design choice, because it never measured the quantity being preserved. This is the gap a real shipping product now occupies. NVIDIA's H2O, a processor reportedly engineered for the China market, has been positioned with compute performance under the post-2023 threshold, while reportedly keeping memory bandwidth close to that of chips the rule was written to stop. The H20 is not, on the rule's own terms, a controlled item. It is a chip shaped to the exact contour of what the formula measures and what it leaves unmeasured, following the rule's own threshold from the page where it is written to the silicon where it is satisfied. The rule also sets a notification tier sitting below full prohibition, a banded zone where an exporter must tell the Bureau about a sale rather than apply for a license. A notification requirement is not a ban. It is the document admitting, in its own structure, that there is space below the wall where shipping is expected to continue, watched rather than stopped. And that admission sits inside the same text that draws the compute ceiling, written by the same hand, in the same order. The decisive silence is not that the rule forgot bandwidth, as though a drafter's pen simply skipped a line. It is that the rule chose two variables to define an entire category of restricted hardware, and any variable left outside that pair became, by definition, unregulated space the moment the formula was finalized. A document that legislates by formula tells you, more honestly than any leak could, exactly where its own edges are. Here the edge sits between how fast a chip multiplies and how much it can move, and the chip now selling into China was built to live on the unmeasured side of that line. Picture a doorway with a height bar mounted above it, checking everyone who passes for one measurement and nothing else. Someone short enough clears the bar without anyone checking the size of what they are carrying through underneath it. The rule's threshold works the same way. It measures a processor's compute height. It does not open the bag to weigh what else is inside. A close reading like this one carries its own omissions, and they deserve the same plain accounting as the rules. The absence of a bandwidth clause is not proof that regulators intended to leave it open, since agencies have added new metrics in later amendments before, and a gap in one revision can be a sequencing choice rather than a concession to industry. The H20 specifications and its real-world training throughput are drawn substantially from company disclosures and analyst benchmarking rather than from the rule's text itself, and the rule does not, and structurally cannot, confirm how any specific chip performs once it is running. The regulatory record is also not finished. The Bureau has revised these thresholds before and has signaled further updates, so a reading of the October 2023 text describes a known boundary at a known moment, not a boundary fixed for all time. None of that erases what the formula plainly omits. It only means the omission should be read as a feature of one document at one date, not as a settled verdict on what Washington meant to allow forever. What the rule establishes, read once, is a numeric ceiling on raw compute performance built from two named and measurable properties of a chip, applied to named destinations and named end uses. What it does not establish, read a second time, is any limit on the bandwidth sitting beside that compute number, and a shipping product now occupies precisely that unmeasured space. The wall in this story was never breached. It was measured, and the measurement left a door standing exactly where its architects never thought to look. The rule still says what it has always said. The chip simply learned to read it more carefully than the people who wrote it. Every threshold writes its own loophole into the shape of what it forgot to ask. The next document on this desk is the rule's own list of notification tier sales, the chips reported, but never licensed. What does silence look like when the silence itself is filed in triplicate? If you want the next document, read this closely. Before the headlines get to it, subscribe and turn on notifications so the second reading finds you first.